So I know you guys missed me last week. It was rough. 14 days without yours truly, JB Ellis. But I still sent out Sideline Sports last week. I made sure that Dave, Denzel, and John held it down. So this week, John and Dave can't be here. So I'm going to hold it down and I'm going to bring Denzel in. And we're going to bring in one of the best on our network, James Tatum, who's flying to the moon right now that his Eagles are back to the Super Bowl. James is going to be covering his second Super Bowl. And last time, the Eagles were there too. So I think this is the last time we're going to take James to the Super Bowl because nobody wants to see the Eagles. But glad to see Barkley. Barkley versus the Chiefs. That's what we should talk about. It should be all about Barkley. But anyway, let's bring in James Tatum.
What's up, everybody?
So, I mean, again, you go to Super Bowl number 2, and the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl the second time you're going to be there. What are the odds of that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but that's what happened. So
pretty wild.
I'm just gonna go out there and do my job. I'm a fan, but I got to do my job first. So that's it.
I mean, this will be my 4th one in person. The Giants haven't even sniffed the playoffs since I started doing this. You got 2 Super Bowls and two chances to go, so that's pretty wild.
That's fun.
Let's see what Denzel says about that.
I think I put inside of the group chat last Sunday that if this happens a third time and James is going, I'm going to file an injunction to officially rename this the Tatum Bowl. You know, because seemingly he gets credential to go in person. It's Eagles Chiefs.
Question: does it still count if next year it's the Eagles versus somebody else, and not the Chiefs?
Yeah, it does because I mean, it'll be your 3rd Super Bowl. It'll be the 3rd time the Eagles are there. That's crazy. The odds of that are just insane. You know, I mean, buy a lottery ticket.
The team that's positioned them to be here. So
I told you that a couple of years ago. You know, they had a window and their drafts have helped their window. Yeah. I was looking at their last couple of drafts, the first 3 rounds, and they've just been killing it with guys that they've taken. You know, that's a front office that knows what they're doing. The rest of the NFC East, minus the Commanders, which we'll talk about them later in the game on Sunday, you know, the other 2 teams, the Dallas, I forget what name they are because they're forgettable, and the Giants who can't sleep at night, their front offices have to be the worst in football for different reasons. You know, it's pretty sad. But let's start with our quick hits. And before we do that, actually, since we're early in the show, put James on. So you don't get to come on the show that often, but you're the host of the best sports show ever that's been on a Friday night, The Gauntlet. It's one of the best shows that I've got a chance to participate in and watch. Tell everyone a little bit about it before we actually get started.
So it's a funny story. I started The Gauntlet during COVID. Because that's when literally everyone was starting a podcast. So I was just like, I might as well do it too. So I did it with Denzel and some of my other friends. And we were literally just trying to do our own thing and have fun. And that's it. So we started doing it for a while. And then our whole thing was we wanted to continue to talk about sports, but be ourselves and not follow what everybody else does. And just trying to be unique. So that's just always something that I've tried to apply to everything I do in life. Just because one person's successful doing it this way, that doesn't mean I have to copy you. That doesn't mean I have to do everything how you do it. I like doing the things that I do in my own way because I don't know, but it just creates a sense of pride knowing that I did something my way. So that's how I treat The Gauntlet. It's sports talk, but it's not like the sports talk that I would say you hear on the radio all the time or see on all these different podcasts on all these networks. It's not the same. It's what we do and what we like to do. So I had no intention of doing anything crazy. And then Sideline Sports was like, we kind of like your style. So I think the message is be yourself and other people will respect that and gravitate towards that. So, I'm grateful to be here and, grateful for the last couple of years that I've been able to do the show with my friends and everybody, and joining Sideline Sports as well has just been phenomenal. So really proud of everything we've been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a great show. I don't know if I'd let my children watch it. You guys are a little bit more adult themed, but it is an excellent show.
Yeah.
You know,
It's rated
I
D for Dom.
just want to make sure you get the right audience, because we don't want, a 13-year-old kid watching it and a parent catching it and be like, what is this? Because,
Because you
nothing
never
wrong
know
with
when
what you do.
something's going to happen.
Nothing wrong with what you do. I love it, but definitely a different style than what we do here. But that's what makes your show great, and that's what makes our show great.
Yes, sir.
Gotta love what you guys do. But
stronger together.
exactly. But enough of this camaraderie and all this other stuff, because we're gonna have some heated discussion, because James is an Eagle fan and we already know how that goes. But let's do quick hits.
All right.
All right, the Great Red Wall. Why can't Josh Allen beat Mahomes in the playoffs, James?
The refs are always on their side. It always comes down to like one or two plays. I thought the fourth down play where the ball was spotted, I thought it was a terrible spot. There just always seem to be up against something, and Josh he can't pull through because he does everything he can, and he still comes short. So it is what it is.
Denzel?
Somewhere between what James said and Josh. If you look at the because if you look at the past times they played each other in the postseason, it's not like Josh had bad games. At some point, someone has to start taking a look at McDermott. But also at the same time, because I was one of the ones that said, hey, I thought that was a first down on that. And you figure it's late in the game, another close call. It's like, oh, here we go. We've seen this tape before. So seemingly that's been a running theme, is that whoever plays the Chiefs plays two opponents. Trust me, I know.
Listen, I'm all about blaming the referees. I thought that the flag on the offsides early in the game was horrible. I've never seen where the clock is a second off before the 2-minute warning and you'd have to run a play. And all of a sudden, it got explained that it's a blended clock and it was less than a second. It wasn't less than a second as it was ticking down. I thought that was horrible. That should have been a delay of game. The catch, I believe it was by Worthy, that should have been an interception, that conveniently there was a PI on. There was the flag indicator on the fourth down play had Kincaid caught the ball, and it was said on radio that they believed there was a flag as well. Coincidentally, there was no flag, but had the ball been caught, would there have been a flag? I'm guessing yes. The spot, I don't even have to talk about how bad that was on third down, let alone fourth down, because they should have had the first down on third down. But when that's all said and done, they beat the team once before this year. The Chiefs are going to get the calls. I'm sure they got the calls the first game. I didn't scrutinize that game the first time. Nobody expected this year's Bills team to get where they were. This year's Bills team was looked upon as they lost Diggs. They're not going anywhere. There's nothing happening. And they beat both Detroit and Kansas City in the regular season. Two of their losses were due to McDermott's clock management, the one in Houston. There was another one. I don't know how many more times this team can get in this position, because other teams are getting better. Meanwhile, Kansas City, they just find pieces. They found Hopkins, Worthy, who they drafted. Pacheco went down. They got Hunt back, who had a hell of a year.
Mm-hmm.
They just find a way. And, their team also, when you look at what they had compared to a few years ago, is nothing like what they had. And they just find a way to win. Andy Reid, who I think is one of the best coaches of football, and Patrick Mahomes, who's the beneficiary of having one of the best coaches of football, who knows how to coach quarterbacks. If you go back to what he did in Philadelphia, the guy's a winner. He just, him, I put him and Tomlin, as two guys I would take in a second to be my coach. Andy Reid obviously is better because he always finds a way to get to the championship game. But, and Mr. Producer Man, this is an important topic that I needed to vet out. Settle down over there.
I mean, to be fair, we are addressing it also again, but it's okay. Go ahead.
No, that's really it. I mean, none of that had to do with the game. It had to do with the teams, other than the penalties. But we can move on to number 2 because, as usual, I'm right. All right. Does Washington finally have a team of the future, or was 2024 season a fluke season, Denzel?
I think the pieces are there to have a team of the future, and then not only that, but you look at the NFC East. You always start with one's division. The Giants are rebuilding. When they actually start the rebuild, who knows? JB, you can probably answer that question. The Cowboys, I can see trend downward. It's unknown how Brian Schottenheimer is even going to be as a head coach. Who it's anyone's guess how Dak is going to play next year. They're just kind of this team of mystery. So for the time being, I'm going to say that they have a future because they have a quarterback and they got the pieces. They obviously made the NFC Championship game, but it's probably, in my opinion, more so because the other two teams are trending downward. This is going to be Washington's time to move upward.
James?
I disagree. I think it's a fluke season. I know Jaden Daniels is a rookie quarterback, but this team is going to have something that they won't have next year, which is there's no more house money. There's no more, oh my gosh, this team is coming from nowhere. We don't know. We didn't know how good they were going to be. Everybody's going to be prepared for Washington. And they also have a lot of work to do. You give up the most points ever in a conference championship game. That defense needs major changes. So if you think that Jaden Daniels is just going to come in here and be that guy, he's not going to. He's not going to do it by himself. So I think it's a fluke season. I think teams will adjust. And I won't be surprised if Washington is not in the playoffs next year.
All right. Good points by both of you. I'll just go back to draft day when Daniels got drafted, and I said, damn, we got to play him twice a year. Bad enough we got to play Hurts twice a year. Now we got to play Daniels twice a year. And Daniels is going to be a really good quarterback in time. He had a really good year, but he's going to get better. This isn't his best. Hurts, I think, regressed a little bit, but I think he still has that potential to get better, and yet he's still in the Super Bowl, so go figure. That just goes to show you it's not just all one guy. The Commanders have a lot of nice young pieces. They're definitely the second best team in the division. They will be next year, no matter what either team does in the draft. Schottenheimer is a joke of a hire. The Giants, as a Giant fan, I don't think we can get out of our own way. And you look at the whole NFC, I think that they'll be back in the playoffs as a wild card. They're not beating the Eagles for the division, but they're trending upward, definitely. They just have to make the right moves as they do that. All right, number 3. Favorite Super Bowl Sunday food? James?
It's difficult. I've had a lot of good stuff, but any type of ribs or anything, gotta have some protein, smoked ribs. I'll go with that.
Ribs, interesting.
You're not going to make your famous dip this year, the buffalo chicken dip?
Brother, I'm going to be on the plane.
You won't make it back.
Nobody got time. I'm going to be on the plane, and if the Eagles win, hopefully the whole city doesn't burn to the ground.
Man, my go-to would be wings. I mean, then again, I find an excuse to eat wings all the time, but it's football. It's the big game. So I'm going to go ahead and go with wings. Last year, ironically, I had lamb steaks, but only because they were in my freezer, before I left. So I kind of had to eat them. But I think this year I'm going to grab some wings just so I can have by the time because I'm landing in the morning. So I'll have enough time to prep. So I'm going to go with wings.
All right. 2 excellent choices, but I'm an appetizer guy. I love chip and dip. Whether it be sour cream dip, buffalo chicken dip, 7-layer dip, just give me some dip on game day. Super Bowl, you want to be able to pick up a chip of whatever type, tortilla, potato. You want to dip it. You want to enjoy it. It's like King of Queens. Every quarter, you got to have a new dip. That's the way to do it. You want to be able to dip. Simple. All right. That was quick hits. I thought that was excellent. James, you would never know you didn't do this before, James.
Pretty good for a rookie.
See, if you're not watching the Gauntlet, you're missing out. All right. So what do we got coming up next?
First topic
of the night. NFC Championship game. The worst championship game in the history of championship football.
No, that's not true. There's been worse.
The Eagles demolished the Commanders 55-23, head to the second Super Bowl in 3 seasons. Was this also a statement game? I'll tell you real quick before we start. I was texting with my friend, and at one point it read, touchdown, Barkley, Hurts, Barkley, Hurts, Barkley. That's just sick in itself that they had 6 rushing touchdowns. So Denzel, was this a statement game?
Absolutely. You hang 55 on a hated rival in a Super Bowl game. I'm not Super Bowl, in an NFC Championship game. Now, I don't know if they were like, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and we're sending a message to whoever it is we play." Would expect even on the other side exactly be scared, but at the same time, I want to go to what Saquon Barkley said sometime this season. It may have been sometime before the NFC Championship game. And this is alluding to what I had asked. I don't know if you remember, JB, a couple of weeks ago on the show when I asked during the quick hits, does the panel feel that the running back position has been revitalized? This is the year of the running back, And Saquon Barkley said, this year we wanted to send a message that you could still run the ball down the opponent's throat and make the Super Bowl. And that's exactly what they did. And you just said it. Barkley, Hurts, Barkley, Hurts. They hung 55, and 6 of those touchdowns were runs, and then not only that, but you got Jalen Hurts, who obviously has more than proven he can throw the ball. So I don't get I'm sure James is going to go off here in a minute behind his critics. But yeah, I mean, that Washington team looked like a clearly overmatched Washington team from the last time that they had met them. And also, it very well may have been that the lights were a little too bright for this Washington team. They hadn't seen an NFC Championship game in like 30-something years, you figure, right? You got a rookie quarterback, Dan Quinn, he's been to a Super Bowl before, but he went with a Falcons team that was about 8 years ago, So the Eagles, yes, absolutely. I would agree to a certain degree that it was a statement game. They went out there and just handled business, like they know how to do. But it also was a statement game because they've had their share of critics all year long. People were looking for a reason to turn it in on the Eagles. Look at Sirianni. He's losing the team. Oh, Jalen Hurts, him and A.J. Brown can't get on the same page. It always was something. And now these guys are back in the Super Bowl. After let the fans tell it and the medias and the critics tell it all season long, this Philly team wasn't going anywhere. So shout out to the Birds. They handled their business in the face of adversity. They had to face one's on the field and one's off the field to get to where they're at.
What do you think, Chips?
In terms of the game, the Eagles did what they've done the whole season. They run the ball with Saquon Barkley. They lean on this offensive line. And Jalen Hurts does his thing. People have been criticizing Jalen Hurts, and especially in the national media. It doesn't matter what show you watch. It can be Fox. It can be ESPN. It could be any of these networks. You're going to hear the same thing. Oh, well, I'm not sure Jalen Hurts can do it. I'm not sure if he has to throw the ball, what's going to happen. And all these things. And it was ridiculous. And that's what that's the main takeaway I took from the game was that Jalen Hurts showed up and he balled out. You want to talk about making a crucial play in a crucial moment of the game? I want to highlight one play. It was 4th and 5, around 2 minutes left in the half. Eagles have it. and he drops it right in the bucket to A.J. Brown. At that point, the Commanders had just scored. It was only a 2-point game. They're looking to get the ball back. So that completely flipped the momentum of the game in the Eagles' favor, and they took it over from there. And we saw what Jalen did the last time he was in the Super Bowl against Mahomes. Played a much better game than Mahomes. Unfortunately, he came out on the wrong side. But I'm confident that my quarterback is able to get it done in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. That's what he's continued to do. So many quarterbacks that lost their first Super Bowl, most of them never made it back or got another chance. And he's back there against the same team, has a chance to go for it against Mahomes. And if Jalen Hurts ends the so-called three-peat that's supposed to happen, just know that the energy is going to have to flip to a 180. And people are going to actually have to give him the respect.
So you make some good points, both of you. First of all, we all forget about what happened in the regular season. Washington took Jalen Hurts out of the last game when they met. He got hurt. He was concussed. And Washington went on to win. Teams don't like that. Now you're meeting for a rubber match to go to the Super Bowl. Anyone in their right mind, as much as we all love the story of Jaden Daniels, the young kid, as much as we love that story, you can't sit here and say that the Eagles are not the better team. I'm a Giant fan, and I'll tell you the Eagles are the better team. It is what it is. Do I like Sirianni? No, I'd still fire him. There are better coaches out there. But guess what? The team won. The team's a product of the GM. The GM the last 2 years has been amazing. The top 3 picks, the first, second, third round over the last couple of years, all impact players. And then what do they do in the offseason? They go to one of their most heated rivals and take one of their best players. And they don't just take him. They make him have a career year with over 2,000 yards. And no, Giant fans, he wasn't getting 2,000 yards for us. No. Do you want to know why he got 2,000 yards? The 5 guys on that line up, one of the best lines in football, if not the best. So, was it a statement game? Yeah, they were angry. They wanted to get to the Super Bowl. I am sure Jalen Hurts, the talk in the media that he can't throw the ball, he can throw the ball. Go back to when he played in college at Oklahoma and Alabama. The kid could throw. It's not necessary for him to throw like he used to have to throw in college. He has Barkley, and he runs too. So, I mean, what is it? Why are we looking for a narrative to try and tear this team down? It's a good team, and it was definitely a statement. They basically told Washington, you're not ready yet. You'll get there, but it ain't today. Come back in a couple of years. That's exactly the statement. What do we got next, Jay?
Let's see here.
All right. The AFC Championship. Yeah, because it was a bunch of chubs called referees. The Chiefs survived the Bills 32-29. The 4th time in the last 5 postseasons that the Chiefs eliminate the Bills. What was the main factor in the Chiefs' win? Jay, why don't you start with this one?
I actually was trying to look and see, pinpointing just what, because you mentioned earlier how, they signed Hopkins. They had their running backs Pacheco, Kareem Hunt returned to the team and had a great year. And isn't it funny how on the crucial final play to get that first down, it was neither one of them. It was Samaje Perine. But that's also just kind of been the Kansas City Chiefs during this whole run. There hasn't really been, like, RB1, you could say it's Pacheco, right? And before that, it was CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But there never has been a mainstay running back during this time. Because remember, Mahomes' first ring, he had Damian Williams, the guy who I thought should have won Super Bowl Most Valuable Player. And it's like anybody in that backfield can get you. As far as this game goes, let's see. I mean, Buffalo, once again, we were treated to a classic, and Buffalo just could not break through that red ceiling. And now, because it's going to get brought up, the infamous fourth down call because they had been going for it on fourth and getting it with Josh Allen. That particular play, I looked at from two different angles. I thought he got the first down. Just from my sight, I thought that he got the first down. Ended up being the Chiefs' ball, and then the Chiefs went down there and scored, but they stopped Buffalo from pulling ahead at the time period. Again, I thought it was a first down. You talk about, I'm going to allude to Cam Newton, what he said a couple of weeks ago. These aren't just regular calls and no calls. They are game-changing and momentum-changing calls and no calls and moments in the ball game. They told me before the Texans Chiefs games, you're gonna have to blow them out. You know, I think everybody knows what the deal is even if the refs don't get involved, you know, you still got to go in there with that mindset that you're going to be facing the refs, you're going to be facing the NFL, you're going to be facing Taylor Swift, like you're up against it, right? As far as this particular ball game goes, I think it was just all around Chiefs. I couldn't really point to one particular thing. JB, you brought up the catch, no catch, which reminded me of the Fail Mary for some reason. If you really actually slow it down and take a look at it, they almost look like identical moments. It reminded me of the Fail Mary. Me personally, I thought that should have been a no catch, but a called pass interference, which I guess would have had the same result because it's a spot foul. But hey, it is what it is. The Chiefs did what they have been known to do, and that's find a way to get through. And now they're attempting to become the first major professional sports team to three-peat since the 2000 to the 2002 Lakers.
James?
What was the main factor in the Chiefs winning? I don't know. The officials are always on their side. I don't want to make that the main point, but there's so many calls in this game that you look at, especially the early fumble. That play really could have got some momentum for the Bills. It got called back. It got reversed and everything. So I think Cam Newton is right when he talks about that. So it's not just, sometimes there's bad calls. Sometimes there's missed calls and everything. But these calls are big. They're big, and they change the outcome of the game. Second of all, I just think the Chiefs have so much experience. They're in this game every single year. Andy Reid is the best coach in the league. He knows how to do it. He knows how to win. Mahomes gets all the credit, but I think Andy Reid doesn't get enough credit. So preparing the team, having them ready for this kind of game, you really don't want to be on the opposite sideline of a guy like Andy Reid.
Listen, I said it a bunch of weeks ago. There was a pass interference call one week that was for them. Then there was no call like a week later that was for them. It's week after week, game-changing calls. And, I'm not saying that it's fixed because I don't think the NFL would go out there and fix, games. I really don't. But at the same time, if you're sitting there and your mindset as a referee is, the Chiefs are doing the right thing, and they're the better team, maybe they need to change how they think or something, because it's every week, and it's the point where it's nauseating. I don't know. I'm going to bring Ralph on in a minute. I'm sure he's going to tell me I'm wrong, that, but I see it blatantly. And I'm sure if we went back over the last 2 years and we look at, important penalties, I can almost guarantee you that the Chiefs get way more than any other team. I mean, their tackles don't even line up on the line of scrimmage half the time, and they don't ever get illegal formation calls. It's baffling how the referees referee their games. That being said, the Bills lost by 3 points. You can't blame the refs when you lose by 3 points. You got to play better. Josh Allen's got to find a way. They had a shot to come back at the last couple of minutes. Could have stopped them as well. You gotta do these things. There's no excuses. You want to represent your conference in the Super Bowl, you got to get it done. Because the Chiefs did. The Chiefs had to stop them, had to stop the Bills, and they did. So, it's just a shame that Josh Allen hasn't gotten there. To me, he's this generation's version of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got one Super Bowl ring. He should have had way more. And Josh Allen has zero. Never gotten one. And he may never get to one with this going on. Mahomes is only 29 years old. And he's still coaching. I mean, do you think next year is going to be any different? I mean, the Chiefs find everybody that they need to replace whoever. They somehow got Hopkins. They somehow got Hunt. They find guys. And none of them are the best in the world, but they play like it when they play for Andy and the Chiefs. Let's bring in Raphael. I want to hear his thoughts on the Chiefs game, what he has to say, and how I'm wrong about the referees, because I already know that's coming.
Here we go. It's the refs. The Chiefs get all the breaks. Blah, 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 blah. Well, if you're Buffalo, you know what you do to need to beat the champs? You have to beat them by double digits. You have to knock them out. You can't wait for a last-minute drive to lose a game. It's just like in boxing. If you want to be a champ, you can't let the judges go to it. You have to knock them out and win on your terms, not by someone else's terms. So, yes, but there's some fluke calls and some Chiefs calls. Yes, Michael Jordan got all the calls. Kobe Bryant got all the calls. And you said the Chiefs are Buffalo, remind you, are of Aaron Rodgers. No, he's not. Buffalo is the Utah Jazz. Buffalo is the Miami Dolphins. There's the Aaron Rodgers. How can you compare him to Aaron Rodgers? Let's have a check. Aaron Rodgers has a ring.
He's
Dan
a
Marino,
failure, that's
0.
why.
Carmelo, 0. John Stockton, 0. Aaron Rodgers has one. He probably smoked it, but he still has one. I don't. I understand if they get all the calls, but when you're the best team in the league, I mean, that's just the way it is. I had season tickets in Chicago. I saw Michael Jordan play a gazillion times. He traveled a gazillion times. He fouled a gazillion times. Did they call it? Nope. But you know what? Detroit beat them. The Pistons beat them because they punished them and beat them. They didn't wait for free throws or a field goal. Pistons didn't care if they were in Chicago. Pistons didn't care if they were at home. You know what, Buffalo? Play nasty. Win by double digits.
You're 100% right. Can't argue with you at all. All right. Where are we going next? All right. We'll start with you on this one, Ralph. The Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites over the Eagles. What do you think about the game? Who's going to win?
I think it's gonna. Everyone's betting the over. I would say if you want to over get it now, it's probably going to move to 50. It opened up at 48.5. The over money continues to go. But if you're the Eagles, you need to win on defense. You need to win on how you won games to get you here. Yes, I know they put up a half a century last week, 55 points, but you're not going to do that against Kansas City. You need to keep this a running game. You need to get Barkley, feed him the ball. Hurts running the ball. Keep Kansas City off. Keep them off the ball. Keep them off the offense watching the game. Buffalo, they would score so quickly. They would move the ball so quickly. And what's that happen? Patrick Mahomes back on the court, back in the field, and he's driving and then they're scoring. Run the ball. Keep the running attack and keep Kansas City's defense watching. I'm leaning towards maybe the under if it goes up to like 50.5. I might do that one. I'm probably gonna fade Patrick Mahomes just like he can give me the middle finger when he getting his third Super Bowl ring, and I laugh again because I try to fade him. But right now, I think it's if I can get 50.5, I'm probably gonna play a little bit on the under.
All right, Denzel.
Okay. So who comes out on top of this one? This is what I'd call the Eagles' revenge game. They have, in my opinion, they've had a top 5 defense all season. In fact, for a good portion of the latter part of the season and maybe a little longer, they were number 1 in the NFL. So when it comes to Super Bowls, I have a tradition on picking the stronger defense, especially if that defense is a top 5 defense. Just off that alone, give me Philadelphia. Now, I agree with Raf. It's a Steve Spagnuolo defense at the end of the day. So I don't think that Eagles are going to hang 55 points. It'd be nice to see, but I don't think they're going to hang 55 points. When it's playoff time, this is typically when his defenses start to look like some historical defenses that we revere from yesteryear. But in the end, Saquon and Hurts are going to be the factor. I don't know who's going to have the better game between the two. We do know what happened the last time these two teams met on the big stage between Mahomes and Hurts. Who was the better player that day? I think I see a repeat of that, but this time the Eagles come out on top. I'm going to say Eagles 37-27.
James?
He's got an Eagles head on. Why'd you ask him who he's boots?
So I think there's a lot of differences between these two teams from the last time they played to now. I think the Chiefs are slightly worse, and I think the Eagles are a lot better than they were at that time, especially on defense. In that game, Kadarius Toney was killing James Bradbury, and they were attacking James Bradbury, and he had the holding call at the end of the game. Eagles don't get the ball back at that point. So Quinyon Mitchell, in addition to this secondary, we've seen what the Eagles defense has been with him and Slay back there. This Eagles defense is 10 takeaways and 0 giveaways in the postseason. And I do think that they're going to force some turnovers on Mahomes. I think it's going to happen. They're going to steal some possessions. And that's what they have to do to win the game. Because I think getting those extra possessions is going to give the Eagles their best opportunity to win. And they stick with what they've done to get them there. Running the ball, relying on the offensive line. People stack the box. It doesn't matter. Saquon's going to break one eventually for 60 yards. So stay patient, stay with the run, protect the ball. And as I said before, Jalen Hurts has been criticized so much, but I trust him to show up in the biggest moments like he did last week.
So your Super Bowl MVP as of right, we already knew. You didn't have to say anything. We figured that out last week. So your Super Bowl MVP, before we go any further, he's a New York Giant, or he was a New York Giant. But whatever. He's going to be the Super Bowl MVP. He's going to have 150 yards. He's going to have a couple of touchdowns. He's going to be the reason why they win. And it's nothing against Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and the rest of the offense. Nothing against the defense, because the defense is going to do what they always do. But the difference is Barkley takes all that pressure off of Hurts, because Hurts doesn't have to be the primary runner. He has one of the best running backs.
Which he was in the last Super Bowl.
Right, and he has one of the best running backs in the league in the backfield with him. So now, who do you stop? I mean, when you're lining up there, what are you doing? Are you worried about what Hurts is doing? You worried about what Barkley's doing? You're getting killed by the offensive line, because the offensive line is phenomenal. And then if all that works and you're able to stop the run, you still got A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. This is a really good offense. And that offensive line is the key to why Barkley has 2,000 yards. Any Giant fan watching this that says, Barkley would have did so well for us, he would have had 1,200, 1,300 yards. He has 2,000 yards because of that offensive line. That's not taking anything away from Saquon Barkley. He's a generational talent. But that offensive line is the reason why that man had 2,000 yards. I saw a video today. You'll probably know the video, James. The lineman running after the block down the field and then into the end zone screaming when Barkley scored one of his touchdowns.
Jordan Mailata.
Yep. What an amazing thing. As a guy who played offensive line in high school, and I'm sure Dave, if he saw that, would love it as well. Just the joy. He went out there, got a block in the second level, creamed the guy, and then ran all the way to the end zone to follow Barkley and celebrate. It was fun to see. And I think Barkley's your Super Bowl MVP. I think Jalen Hurts has a great game. I think it's a close game. I don't think we're going to be bored that, it's one-sided. Although I wouldn't mind seeing it one-sided. I'm tired of the Chiefs, tired of Andy Reid, tired of Patrick Mahomes, tired of Kelsey. All great players and phenomenal coaches. The same way I got tired of Tom Brady. It's just enough's enough. You want to see something different. And nobody's ever three-peated before. Joe Montana, Tom Brady, the list goes on. Great quarterbacks. Dan Marino never even got one. Patrick Mahomes gets a three-peat. That would be amazing, and I don't want to see it. And I love Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a great player, but not in the mood to see that this year. So I think the Eagles by a field goal, 30-27. Fun game. I don't think the over is going to go over that, but if I was going to bet, I bet the under. Because
well, 4 out of 5 Super Bowls in New Orleans have gone over the total. 4 of those ones that went over the total, 55 points or more, were scored in that game, including the blackout game where the lights went out in New Orleans.
Shout out to Beyonce
that year.
Oh, the Beyonce Bowl?
Yeah, the Beyonce Bowl, which is good. Like I said, it's going to be. Why would you? I mean, I understand people betting Barkley at 2 plus 250 and all that, but if you like the Eagles, I would say take a shot at maybe Jalen Carter, a defensive guy, because if they win, they're gonna win on defense. They're not gonna outgun Patrick Mahomes. Think outside the box. He's 50-1. Dallas Court 50-1. I understand Barkley's probably gonna get his shares. He's probably gonna get his touchdowns. But if you're looking for Eagles to win the Super Bowl, you have to think outside the box as an MVP. You need something that's going to be the reason why they won the MVP. It's not going to be Barkley's going to get his yards. He's going to get his touchdown. But I think a big spark on a defensive side or the tight end could be the reason why someone else gets the MVP, not a quarterback or Barkley.
That's interesting. I like what you're thinking. I mean, because obviously if you're betting, Barkley's going to be one of your shortest odds. So for the Eagles. So I agree.
Carter has also been unstoppable.
And if the Chiefs win, you have to look at Travis Kelce at 15-1, because I think win or lose, I think he hangs it up. I don't think he comes back next year. I'm hearing he's got a lot of movie offers. He's got a lot of stuff to do with his brother. I would not shock me, win or lose. This is Travis Kelce's last year.
I said the same thing also. That he's like he has, and then also you figure Travis Kelce would be leaving the game with, much like his brother, he accomplished a lot, no debilitating injuries. You know what I mean? You leave the game healthy. You got the money. You got the accomplishments. Just go do something. Go be Taylor Swift's manager for the next album or something. Go get in the music business. But no, I'm in agreement. I think this is Travis Kelce's last game.
A lot of people have said that, and it makes sense. He's won the Super Bowl, obviously, multiple times at this point, 3, if I'm correct, thinking back. Even if he doesn't get the three-peat, he still has 3 Super Bowl rings. The only way I can see him coming back is if they lose, and I still don't think he comes back. I'm in agreement with you guys. James?
I never really considered it, but based off the kind of year he had, I'm kind of thinking he's declining. So I don't think he has much left in the tank anyway. Jason, when the Eagles lost to the Chiefs, he came back for one more season, and then he retired at the end of the 2023 season. So maybe Travis plays one more year.
Yeah, I mean, I only think if they lose, he'll come back. And I don't know. I mean, I'm glad none of the 3 of you said maybe he was distracted due to, Taylor. Because that legitimately could be a thing. And I'm not saying it in a negative way. You have a life change and, you're so good at performing and doing something, but your priorities change. It's not that he doesn't care about football. That's not what I'm saying. But, you have a lifestyle change, so a big event in your life, and your priorities are a little shifted. And you can't do something that you did before. But I don't think that's it. I mean, I think he's gotten older and declined, but it's interesting to see. All right, so next topic. Your most memorable Super Bowl. There's been 58 of them prior. Let's start with you, Ruff.
Boy, a lot of them. I mean, for a gambling point of view, I still have nightmares when Devin Hester hit a kickoff return for the Chicago Bears, because everyone bet that. It was a long, long day for us cashing those tickets. We got crushed on that prop bet for Hester winning it back. I mean, you could always. I mean, since we have a new guy on there, maybe the Philly special is always memorable. I like John Elway's helicopter play. I think that was very memorable. But I would think when I think of Super Bowl, the first thing that pops in my head was Prince performing halftime in the rain. In the rain, he performed. That's right. I'm talking to you, Beyonce and Taylor Swift, and all you guys have all this. Prince did it in the rain. Do that.
Denzel?
I would say my most memorable. Ralph mentions the Philly special and the performances and everything, and my most memorable is Wide Right. I distinctly remember watching that Super Bowl with my cousin, and I saw a classic historical. JB, I know you're gonna love this one. A historical defense that no one talks about. You talk about the 02 Bucks, 2000 Ravens, and the 13 Seahawks and the 85 Bears. And I've always said that the 90, well, even the 86, 85 through the 90s Giants, they don't get the praise that as much praise as they should. That defensive scheme is actually in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What he used that day, he shut down the Jim Kelly-led K-Gun offense. The Giants overmatched them all game long. There's actually a running gag that the new kids on the block spent more time on the field during their halftime show performance than the Bills offense did all game long. And it still came down to a field goal. And when it left its foot, first of all, this was a different time period, okay? Kicking 47 yards on natural grass was very hard to do. Very hard to do. As soon as he left his foot, I was like, oh, it's good. And then I saw it sail, and I was like, oh, no good. And my cousin was in the back, and he couldn't watch it. And as soon as I was like, whoa, it's no good. And he was like, because they were like, yeah, Pickle, you wanted to win. And we just went to get each other just out of competition. I was like, I'll pick the Bills. And he was like, I'll pick the Giants, So he was running around the house and everything. And it was a memorable time. I know that's a heartbreaker for Bills fans because of the 4 Super Bowls that they had to run at that time period. That was the closest they got. But man, that Giants defense was disgusting. Carson, Taylor, Banks, they were all over the field that game.
James?
I mean, I love Super Bowl 52. It was the Eagles' first Super Bowl win. Nobody believed in Foles. Nobody believed he could get it done. He went toe-to-toe with Brady. He had to catch Brandon Graham with a strip sack late in the game. Love that game. But there's another one that I just always think about, and that's actually the Seattle Seahawks versus the Denver Broncos. It was an absolute blowout. It was in MetLife Stadium, I believe, and it was cold. And that's when the NFL was just like, yeah, we're done with this. We're never doing this again. I just remember the ball flying over Peyton Manning's head early in the game, and that's when I just knew, yeah, this game is an absolute disaster. And Seattle really solidified themselves as one of the best defenses of all time because that Denver Broncos offense was unbelievable. Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdowns that season, I believe. So they were unbelievable offensively, but they held 8 points. They scored 8 points in that game. So that just always sticks out to me.
So Denzel took mine with the 86 Giants. Definitely that
Look, it's a bunch of
defense.
homers on this show.
Well,
Jeez,
I mean,
To
that
be
was
fair,
one of the
I said 90s Giants. I said 90 Giants, but you could take 86 when they beat Denver.
Oh no, the 86 wasn't as good as 90 with the Bills. You are right. I got the years mixed up. So I'm gonna go with the helmet catch and beat the undefeated Patriots in 2008. I mean, honestly, I didn't think we had any chance in that game. I'll never forget sitting in my living room, my best friend setting off my house alarm, yelling so loud because he won his bet and the Giants won. Why he would bet the Giants against an undefeated Patriots team, I have no clue.
Everybody did that. Yeah, take that game. Everyone bet that game.
Yeah, and I mean, that the helmet catch, which was the luckiest catch in NFL history. Beating Tom Brady, which I always enjoyed when the Giants beat Brady, when anybody beat Brady. It was just a fun game, and the fact that Belichick started off as the defensive coordinator for the Giants and became one of the most winningest coaches in the NFL, and they basically beat him 2 Super Bowls in a row. But that one with the helmet catch was by far my favorite, beating the undefeated team 17-14, last minute drive. And, quarterback of that team, Eli Manning, should be named a Hall of Famer in NFL honors this year. We'll wait and see
that
on
was
that one.
we actually are good thing you mentioned that, but the next Sideline Sports show we do, that was a question last show when you couldn't be here, and we all agreed to bring back that question with you on the show. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? So yeah, it'll get
Not even
brought
a
back
question.
when Dave and when Dave and John get back.
Okay.
But back to that, real quick with that game, and Raph, I'm sure you remember this because for Super Bowl, it was a Super Bowl 42, and the Patriots were 12-point favorites. Another, one of the rare double-digit favorites in the Super Bowl, and it was something I looked it up just now. The Giants were a 30-1 to even win that game.
Yeah, like I said, it was probably one of the biggest losses books took that game was because everyone was on the Giants. Everyone was betting the Giants money line. They're like, hey, I don't want to take the points. I'll just take the Giants money line. So I love how people say, oh, I didn't think they were going to win. Well, a lot of people thought they were going to win because it's one of the biggest losses in Super Bowl betting history. So I love when these fans, they say, oh, I didn't think they had a chance to win. Well, a lot of people thought they did. But you know what? That's why I always say, you can't rest all your starters. Remember, New England didn't play any of their starters their last game, and they started off slow all through the playoffs. So it didn't really shock me that they were going to lose that game. But we'll see what the Chiefs do because the Chiefs didn't play anybody on their last week, and they got blown out. But now they're here, so we have to find out: can the Eagles make that 2-0 for a starting quarterback back to back? They didn't play on week 18.
Interesting. That's a great question. All right. We got one more topic for the last few minutes, Denzel. All right. Give Brady one more Super Bowl loss in the dynasty. Who is it to?
Denzel? So basically, it's like if you could go back in time and make a time shift and give Brady one more Super Bowl loss, who would you choose it to? My pick was the 2003 Panthers. I thought that was a hell of a team. They were known as the Cardiac Cats. They got there. I think they had their share of one-score games that they won. They were 11-5. The personnel, they had the personnel to do it. Delhomme was having a great season. You had Steve Smith, Muhsin Muhammad. Who else? The XFL guy, Rod Smart. He hate me. They had a dual-back system in Stephen Davis and Deshaun Foster. John Casey doesn't piss the bed and kick the ball out of bounds and give Tom Brady a short field, we might be seeing a different story. But if we could go back and give Brady one more loss, I would say it would be to the Panthers. I thought that was a deserving team that year.
Ruff?
Probably the Dirty Birds that blew that big lead because I have a home in New Orleans, I have to hear every time Atlanta plays New Orleans. They always remember that the number they even mentioned and the dates, but when was the last time the Saints have been in the Super Bowl? At least Atlanta made it to the Super Bowl before you guys won year one, so I have to give it that one. But I would have to say Atlanta. I felt bad for the Falcons that game.
James?
You guys keep
I had to
doing
look
this
it
to
up.
me, man.
I already know where he's going.
Listen, the fact that Terrell Owens went to the Super Bowl and he had a injured leg and he put 120 yards for nothing, that's just devastating. People like Brian Dawkins, who's one of the greatest of all time, no rings. He's a Hall of Famer though, but no rings. That's just sad when you start to think about all the great players that failed to win a ring because of one man. And his name's not Tom Brady. He's actually a friend of our network. That's Donovan Jamal McNabb, who sold in the Super Bowl, went out partying the night before and threw up on the field and all this stuff. He's not loved in Philadelphia. I can confirm that. And he never will be. especially if Jalen wins us another Super Bowl. It's going to be Nick and Jalen with the statues. No Donovan.
All right. I'm going to go with the loss to the Rams. I thought the Rams were a much better team. Jared Goff, I thought, was getting his Super Bowl ring. I was so disappointed that they just shut the whole Rams team down. It was probably one of the worst Super Bowls ever to watch.
13-3.
13-3.
It wasn't even like great defense. It was just boring. Like, there are some games that are low scoring that you could say, wow, the defense made plays. That was just like, is it over yet? And that Rams team was like on fire. And then they got rid of Goff and they went with Stafford. Goff still hasn't gotten a ring, and everyone tells me that Stafford's better than Goff because Stafford got one. I still say that the Rams gave up on Goff too early. And, Goff just does nothing but disappoint me year after year as Detroit keeps losing. Number one seeds that lose in the divisional round, not very good.
Hey, JB, quick question since you're on that game. Is Julian Edelman the least deserving Super Bowl most valuable player ever?
Listen, would Julian Edelman ever play with another quarterback besides Patrick Mahomes? Mahomes would find a way to make him good. Brady made him a superstar. Mahomes would have at least made him good. Would anyone else be able to make him a really good player?
Well, no,
Peyton
you're
Manning.
right. Well, Peyton, but you're right about that. I'm not disagreeing with you, JB. But the thing that I'm looking at it, and you alluded to it, the Patriots defense clearly were the stars of the game. Clearly.
Without a doubt.
I thought MVP should have went to someone on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm with you on that. And I mean, I'm not a huge Edelman fan to begin with. I listened to him on Mad Dog Radio today, and I'm like, he just does nothing for me. The whole personality and, the whole New England thing. Sorry, guys. Kendall, I know you're watching. Love you, but I can't get down with the Patriots. Just not the way it is. But, all right, before we get going, we got a couple of seconds left. James, tell everyone when they can find the Gauntlet and when it's on.
It's on Sideline Sports. It's on Gauntlet Sports Media and everything. So follow it on social media, follow on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc.
And when is it on?
Fridays at 8 p.m. live.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's all the time we have for this week. There will be no show next week. All four of us here, and James, John, and Dave will be joining us. We're going to be in New Orleans for Super Bowl week. So we'll have some great videos, some interviews, whole bunch of stuff going on. We're going to be at the press conferences opening night. You can find that at sidelinesportsnet.com. I'm sure everyone here will be asking questions of all the players throughout the week of the press conferences, except for Raphael. Raphael's working that week. We're going to be having fun asking questions.
You know what time that thing is over with for the last team? 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock
Raphael,
at night.
Raphael, who's younger than me, is showing his age.
Yeah, but you can still go to the rest of the press conferences.
No, but I gotta be working. I gotta be doing prop bets and stuff like that. I am not wasting. I gotta listen to guys answer questions. What's your favorite meal? No.
Either way, we'll be there next week, so we won't have a show. But until then, have a great week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back the Tuesday after for a recap. Make sure you're listening to us on WDJY in Atlanta, and Believe Network, as well as our newest internet radio station, the hottest internet radio station on the planet, KRSN. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Enjoy.
Oh, be good humans.
Tush Push is never getting banned.